Hello and welcome to round 2 of the Parenting Roundabout podcast. I'm Terri Morrow and I'm here with Catherine Haleko. Say hi, Catherine.
Hello.
Usually on this podcast we talk about parenting issues, but once a week, Catherine and I like to get together to discuss TV, movies, books, and other entertainment topics because it's nice to talk about something other than parenting for a change. Now, this week, we've got some catching up to do. We were off for a couple of weeks. Did you miss us? Due to Catherine's travels. And so now we are about 3 episodes behind the West Wing Weekly. That podcast keeps building up there in my podcast thing. I feel so bad not listening to them immediately as they come down. So we're about 3 episodes behind, and we need to play some catch up. So this week, we're going to knock off 2 episodes, and next week, 2 more, and then we should be back on track, right? That was the plan?
Right.
Okay,
as long as they don't do something goofy.
Yeah, I hope not. Well, there's still the next one that we need to do is there already. So we'll see what they do next this week if they screw us up. But I don't think so. There's, I think, an extra episode somewhere this season, a documentary episode, but I don't think they would be doing it now. Anyway.
Okay. Right.
But first today, we're going to discuss a show that we don't have to watch on anybody's timetable but our own, which is Netflix's Master of None, which in Season 2, Episode 3, offered a little riff on religion. What did you think of the episode, Catherine? It was, I believe, just frankly called Religion, right?
It was, and this is another one where Dev's parents are featured, and they are played by Aziz Ansari's real parents. Mm-hmm. And they are hilarious, and I love
His
them.
dad, in particular, is getting into it.
Yes. And so it was sweet. I mean, it talked about how, you know, Dev was sort of not eating pork in front of his parents, or especially in front of his more religious aunt and uncle who had come to visit. But then he sort of felt like he didn't like faking it.
Right.
And his dad had to explain to him how, you know, you're hurting your mother's feelings. Like, it's not about, she doesn't really care if you eat pork or go to mosque or do your daily prayers or whatever. But, you know, when you just in front of her offend her family, that is hurtful. So, but it was a sweet ending how he sort of made up with her by quoting the Quran to her and by text.
Yes.
So yeah, I enjoyed it.
It was cute. It was definitely a lighter episode. It was felt more like another number of little vignettes than it was like, hey, why don't we do something on religion? Here's a bunch of little anecdotes. We'll string them together.
It was definitely anecdotal, and it didn't get real deep into. No. I mean, at one point he said, you know, being a Muslim means people think I'm a terrorist, but it was like that 1 second, and then it just kept going, and so it was very light. It was not, it was not real challenging. Is what I'm saying.
No, but enjoyable, and you know, easy to watch while you're doing other things, which is my task these days. It didn't require 100% of my attention, but I did enjoy it. And I thought that the kid they got to be him as a child looked exactly like Aziz Ansari. I wonder if he's related to. So like, I know who that is.
Right.
Eating the bacon. Yeah.
Eating bacon for the first time at a friend's house after his sleepover. With the mom with like her sort of big hair and big cordless phone. Yes. That was funny. It's cute. So, yeah, I mean, I like how on this show, you know, he explores things that he wants to explore, and he does it in a funny way, and there's not a lot of like, I don't know, he doesn't have to feel real heavy on the message, but he still gets his point across.
It seems maybe particularly this season, I think I've heard this from other people, is that there seems to be no need for one episode to be like another. It's not like you're going to have a half an hour plot from beginning to end every week. It's every week it's going to be kind of a different thing, which is fine. Right. You know, it's as long as it's always going to be enjoyable and likable people and
Yeah.
I'm happy to tune it in.
Yeah, I enjoy it. And I listened to the most recent Pop Culture Happy Hour. And it had the woman who plays his friend, Denise. Yes,
I heard that.
Who was on this episode. She wasn't on the first two this season, I don't think. Because those were set in Italy and she was not there.
Yeah.
So she was interesting to hear.
Yes, when she came on, I'm like, oh yeah, she's the one who's on Pop Culture Happy Hour.
I know her.
I recognize that voice. I just listened to it for half an hour.
Yeah, so she had a brief role in this week's, but I think there's coming up going to be more Denise.
Yes.
If you're hoping for more Denise, stay tuned.
Yes. But so next, the episode next week is First Date. So we'll be watching that next. And then we'll move on today to our 2 West Wing episodes, one of which is one of my favorites of this season, Bartlet for America. And then since we're doing 2, we also watched H.Con 172, which is like the closing of the storyline from that episode and the larger MS storyline pretty much entirely.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those where it's such a continuation that it's basically the scene picks up right where the last one left off.
So if we had to watch 2 in 1 week, this was a good pair, and it's good that they broke this way. That we happen to have them as the 2 for 1 week. So you got that resolution. And, we can sort of talk about them as one big unit, I guess. But I just love that episode, Bartlet for America. And it's interesting what they were saying on the podcast about the Christmas episode every year being like a showcase for somebody who then went on to win
an Emmy
for it. Mm-hmm. And, as good as the 2 before it were, this one is just as good for John Spencer. And I just love everything about Leo and his performance. The asking Jordan for dates did not bother me. I can understand why it would bother people, but it didn't bother me because it was Leo. And because it was so obviously part of his passive aggression towards this whole ridiculous affair that he was going to, find any way to distract himself from it whatsoever. Right. And I think Joanna Gleason was terrific, just, pretty much handling him as he needed to be handled. Right.
Yeah, she was great. So,
yeah, she's around in the future a little bit at least. And so I thought that dynamic was good, and I liked. I mean, I've seen it before, so I knew where it was going. Seeing it the first time, did you have any idea what? As they mentioned on the podcast, we're behind everybody else for a little while. Of the few people who know what's going on. Josh obviously knows what's going to happen, and Bartlet knows, and they're trying to get him out of it, but it's not really clear what it is they're trying to get him out of.
Right, and I didn't know, and I didn't know how Cliff Calley knew.
Well, I think we missed the scene where Gibson told them, but I think Cliff picked up on the fact that Gibson was asking about a night that should have had nothing to do with anything. Okay. That they knew nothing about this particular. So it's like, that's why he said, what are you talking about? You need to tell me what you're going to be asking. This is outside of what we've questioned anybody on. And then I think we missed the scene where Gibson tells him and the Bruno what it is, and then we cut back with him going, nuh-uh. Okay. That's not right. That's not the point of these hearings. Is not to tell embarrassing stories about people. Right. So, boy, what a oily guy he was. That well played, Gibson. The guy who plays Gibson. Because you were in one or 2 tiny little scenes, you were completely hateful.
Yeah, hate him. Exactly.
But,
and there's continued significance.
I did not notice it.
Like when Leo is in the hotel, when the flashback, and he's drunk in the hotel room, and then the phone rings, and they're like, you need to come down here, the president's collapsing. Oh. Okay, he can barely even respond.
Oh, so that's such a heartbreaking scene. That whole thing, when he's talking about the ice in the glass and all these details, and then You just know.
Right. You know, as soon as he says, give me a sip.
Yeah, oh, no, there is no such thing as a sip. So, that's so sad. And that Josh and Bartlet know about it and love him and want to save him from having to talk about it.
Right.
That's just so sweet. And the thing about the napkin. And then the flashbacks, too, were fun. Of little bits of the campaign.
Getting to see Mrs. Landingham again.
Oh, yeah. That was so great. She was wonderful.
And some of the campaign stuff.
Yes.
Yeah. And
that was fun.
And okay, well, this is skipping ahead into the second, in H.Con 172, but when Rob Lowe hands out all the, Sam hands out all the books, and he's like, well, first problem, I'm Ed, not Larry.
That was wonderful. My gosh. That was so good. But finishing up with Bartlett for America.
Yes, sorry.
I also, in those flashbacks, I gotta say, I can see why Hoynes is ticked off. I think he had a point. I think that would be very hard to just, I know Bartlett has complained in the past that Hoynes kept him waiting. I think you got to give John a little time to process that. That's like,
right.
I lost to somebody who has just told me that he lied about his health. Let me just think about this for a while, and now wants me to be his running mate. So that was a little harsh.
That whole scene of he says, okay, well, let me think about it. And then Bartlett says, I'd like your answer now. And then he says, you'll get it when I'm ready, or whatever he says. Ooh, that was good.
And boy, the scene where he's talking to Abby and what is it going to show? And, is it just dragging her into this thing? And, I'm just going to get my speeches and then I'm going to be out of it and it's going to be no big thing. And she's the one who's really going to have to pay in the end, unfortunately. But, and you could say she shouldn't have done it, but how could you not,
Yeah.
The guy you love wants to do this thing, and it seems like a good idea, and you trust that it's only going to go so far. And then when it doesn't, you can't say, well, no, this has been fun, everybody, but no, we're stopping here.
You're right.
It just gets a momentum of its own. So, very interesting watching back on that, and just such a good, relationship between Bartlett and Leo. Very sweet.
Yeah, absolutely.
All of that stuff.
Great
and
stuff.
So I really enjoyed watching that again. And it was just hearing that John Spencer interview on the podcast. It was just delightful and sad.
Yes, really sad.
But
really good. And I like how they pointed out, he sounds like just so thrilled to get to do this.
Yes, he does.
And you could hear it in his voice.
It was such a great part for him, and he did it so well. I remember, he mentioned being on L.A. Law. I had forgotten that he was on that.
Yeah, I loved him on L.A. Law.
That's where I first saw him. But this role, this was like, the role of his career. He was just so perfect in it and brought so many different shades to it. And, he's so cocky and so confident, but I think you see at the beginning and at the end what kind of toll it takes on him, that he feels like he has to put this on, but it's just really, kind of bedrock stuff for him.
Right.
So, and then we move on to H.Con 172, and yes, that whole thing about the book. Poor Sam. And the scene I forgot, this is the scene where CJ does, boy, crazy boy. Because he's just, they're all kind of, all the way through, they're kind of looking at him like, really? We're going to get into this detail?
Right.
It's like, this seems like a waste of time. Poor CJ has to go and ask Merlin about his underwear.
Did you have special underwear? Just tell me.
But I thought it was really interesting in the podcast. I think Josh is just 100% wrong about Cliff Cali. I think we are clearly supposed to think he's a good guy, and that he has come up with this as a way to get everybody, just to kind of get it over with.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I in no way think he was trapping Leo into causing this. I don't know where that comes from. That's just, I think it's supposed to be very clear that he's kind of putting this out there as a way to get Leo out of having to testify, but also having this guy do this thing that he feels is wrong. And And as far as the campaign, having this censure is bad for the campaign, but so is endless hearings. So it just, puts an end to that chapter and you can move on, both for the campaign and for the people involved and also for the show, which is like, all right, done with that plot, move forward. So, and I was always thinking when I see this, I was thinking of Charlie, who was going to be destroyed by these lawyer bills. That's a reason to put this to an end. So that he doesn't have to go in there and do that.
Well, and also the part that Joanna Gleason, the lawyer, pointed out, if this comes out about you, you might have to resign.
Right.
When she says, play this tape to the end.
Exactly.
I don't think he was thinking.
No. He was just thinking that he takes a bullet for the president.
Right.
And that's nice, but there's all sorts of ways that you can drag him down. Mm-hmm. And this might be one of them. She was so wonderful in that episode, as good as she was in the first one. Just sitting around his office reading resolutions. So funny. And just not, just matching him really inch for inch and not taking any of his guff. No, so that was very enjoyable. I really like that character, and I think she does great with it. I always enjoy when I see her pop back in. And what else did we have in that one? Oh, Amy Gardner. Yes. Yeah. The romantic travails of Josh Lyman.
Yeah.
Who never learned how to go beyond
I like you.
Flirting. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I found that a little, I don't know, really? You're supposed to be, 35 years old?
Yeah.
Figure this out yet?
I mean, I do kind of like the admission that he wasn't the smartest guy and he had to work really, really hard. I mean, I think it is, you do see people who excel in one part of their lives through hard work and just are missing pieces. Mm-hmm. So I can kind of buy that.
Yeah.
But, I don't know.
But I mean, the level of awkward.
Yes. And the whole thing of going into Toby and saying, give me an excuse to talk to her. And Toby's like, why am I involved in this at all? Yeah, gosh. And she's like, have you made this thing up just to be able to talk to me? So.
Yeah, she figured that out pretty darn quick.
Yeah, so there's more of that coming. Enjoy her character. You're going to get a lot of her.
Great.
But I do think I'm trying to think if this is the end of Cliff Kelly for now, which is too bad because, that scene where he calls Donna and she realizes he's the one who got the hearings stopped, and she noticed all the stuff about Josh being upset about things and being relieved, and that was kind of sweet. Mm-hmm. But he comes back late in the series. But, I don't know if it's the last season or the one before, he comes back as kind of a regular or semi-regular. I don't remember what exactly, but he's working at the White House. But I think this may be it for him for now. I don't think they keep dating.
Okay.
Christian Slater's coming down the pike for her. But just have Josh and Donna date. Would be inappropriate, I guess. So that was those 2 episodes, which I enjoyed watching and enjoyed listening to the podcasts of very much. I really missed it. It was fun getting back, and it was nice that we were coming back on these 2 episodes because they were so good. The next 2,
The next
one that I'm really looking forward to is, well, actually, I think there's Night 5, and then there's Dead Irish Writers, I think it's called. Those 2 are very good. Looking forward to those.
They're coming up pretty soon, so
they are coming up pretty soon.
Next week we're going to do 2 more, as you said, and they're going to be 100,000 Airplanes, and followed by the Two Bartlets. So
we are also getting close to the episode that is about Television Without Pity. That's the U.S. Poet Laureate.
Okay.
That's coming up, too. That's not a high point of the series. But I thought it was funny that the guy who interviewed John Spencer was talking about having been on the Television Without Pity boards.
He mentioned that.
Yes. That was, we'll talk about it when we get to that episode, but I really wish they would get one of the people who were involved with that to come onto that episode and talk about it, because it was really quite something.
Yeah.
But both his actual flame out on the boards and the way he presented it on the show. Yeah. Chain smoking parliaments. But anyway, so I guess that is it for this week then. So we have our work cut out for us for next week. Yeah. And we'll remind everybody that in 2 weeks, theoretically, we will reinstate our challenge round with the book The Royal We, if I get to it, which right now ain't looking so good, but it could happen. A window of time could open up.
Keep trying.
It's on my phone. It's as close as my heartbeat at all times. It's just that, the puzzles are so much more satisfying in the moment.
I know.
Than going and reading a page of a book.
Just read a couple pages and then do a puzzle and then come back.
And somewhere in there do a little work, but basically puzzles and reading. That'll be fine.
I feel like once you start, you may...
into it a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like it. I want to. I really do. I have the best of intentions.
I know.
It could happen. But for now, let's say that is going to be it for our round 2 today. Please subscribe to our Parenting Roundabout podcast so you won't miss any of our episodes, including our daily speed rounds and weekly group chats. As always, you can find recaps, links, and an opportunity to comment on our website at parentingroundabout.com. Goodbye, Catherine.
Bye, Terri.
Goodbye, everybody.